Okay, now obviously, these cover-ups were ultimately unsuccessful, or at least eventually revealed themselves to be true by the source themselves. But that doesn't mean they didn't try. And before we begin, I do want to warn any viewers out there that this content can be pretty heavy. It can be unsettling, traumatic for the victims, and is overall pretty disgusting, so please take discretion while watching this. Ugh. I towel off from sweating through my last video, and now we have a topic that's gonna induce sweat. Well. Number 10. George Reeves, Superman, dies in supposed suicide. George Reeves, best known for portraying Superman in the 1950s TV series Adventures of Superman, tragically passed on June 16, 1959 from a gunshot. While it is widely believed to have been a suicide, some suspect that he was murdered. Many actors in Hollywood at the time did not believe the suicide story, and instead believed that he was murdered. In the book Hollywood Kryptonite, authors Sam Kashner and Nancy Schoenberger believe that Toni Mannix, the wife of Eddie Mannix, a known fixer and vice president of MGM, was involved in some way as she had been having an affair with Reeves. Eddie Mannix was rumored to have ties to the mafia, so his involvement is certainly possible. Toni had confessed to a priest that she was involved. However, her testimony is unreliable as she suffered from Alzheimer's disease, and thus it's impossible to know if her confession was legitimate. Number 9. Fatty Arbuckle. One of the first big scandals in Hollywood, Fatty Arbuckle was a celebrity during the silent film era. However, at the height of his career, he was put behind bars for the murder of Virginia Rapp. According to Rapp's companion that evening, she was found sick in the bathroom of Arbuckle's hotel and had to be taken to the hospital. Her companion believes that Arbuckle had sexually assaulted Rapp and in the process caused her bladder to rupture. An autopsy found no evidence that an assault took place, and his lawyers produced evidence showing that Rapp had a chronic bladder condition. He was charged with manslaughter as a result. While he was ultimately acquitted, the damage to his career had been done, and Arbuckle could no longer find work as an actor. Number 8. Natalie Wood's death. Let me start by saying, there are many unknowns in this case, and while there has been an alleged cover-up, nothing has ever been proven. The story goes that Natalie Wood, a woman who feared water her entire life and could not swim, went on a weekend boat trip to Catalina Island with her husband Robert Wagner and fellow actor Christopher Walken, as well as the captain of the ship, Dennis Davern. Her body was found 1 mile away from the boat. The autopsy showed that she had bruises on her body and arms and an abrasion on her left cheek. However, where they came from is unknown. Allegedly, Wood and Wagner argued that evening, which Wagner admits to in his memoir. Authorities say that it is possible that she was assaulted before she drowned. However, it is just as possible that she simply slipped. As things currently stand, the death has been ruled an accidental drowning. Some believe that a cover-up involving Robert Wagner was devised by some very high-up people, including Ronald Reagan. Whatever it was that happened, what we know to be true is that Natalie Wood, tragically, perished by drowning that night, and a great talent was lost. 7. Celebrity abortion protocols. I want to preface this by warning anyone who has had to deal with a terminated pregnancy or child loss, this is going to be hard to digest, so please proceed with caution. It's no secret that old Hollywood had an excessive degree of control over their actors and actresses, with many being unable to get married. However, given these women were seen as assets to the studio and not as people, if they were discovered to be pregnant, the studios would often force actresses to terminate the pregnancy. Studios would cover up the reason the actress had disappeared and force them back to work shortly after the termination. Yeah, pretty disgusting stuff. I don't really feel that I have the right to comment on how hard that must have been for the actresses, but my sympathies go out to anyone who has ever had to face something like that. I can't even begin to understand how horrible that must be. Number 6. Judy Garland's entire career. This poor woman. So again, it's no secret that old Hollywood was a really awful place to be, especially if you were an actress. And Judy Garland seems to have gone through more than any woman should ever have had to go through. Garland was famously overworked, and the studio put her on drugs, specifically amphetamines and barbiturates, as well as adrenaline shots and pills so that they could stay awake and work longer hours. And MGM head Louis B. Mayer forced her to sit on his lap, groped her, and complimented her as he did so. Tragically, Garland passed away at the young age of 47 after overdosing on barbiturates. Number 5. Alfred Hitchcock, was a stalker. According to actress Tippi Hedren, who starred in Alfred Hitchcock's films The Birds and Marnie, famed director Alfred Hitchcock stalked, harassed, and sexually assaulted her during the time they worked together. Allegedly, Hitchcock was possessive of Hedren, and he warned the other castmates not to touch her, and that if he saw her talking to another man, he would have an unbreakable stare on his face. He even had her handwriting analyzed and had his assistants make sure she was not seeing other men. Hitchcock supposedly would have his driver pass by her home, and in one particular instance, he entered her dressing room and aggressively put his hands on her. Discussions of Hitchcock have notably left out this piece of information until recent years, when victims have come forward with allegations of his inappropriate acts. And in light of these allegations, I can't say I'll be watching his films again anytime soon. Number 4. Woody Allen child sexual abuse. Yeah, this is a big one, and not too long ago either. So, Woody Allen, for those who don't know, is an acclaimed director, but also one who is quite notorious for his inappropriate relationships, most notably marrying his ex-wife's adopted daughter. But in 1992, he was accused of sexually molesting his adopted daughter, Dylan Farrow, when she was 7 years old. While there are many claims involved in that case, what we know for certain is that Allen had already been in therapy for his behavior regarding Dylan. He refused to take a polygraph test regarding the incident, a judge found his behavior inappropriate and felt Dylan needed protection, and Dylan's allegations are corroborated by 3 other adults present during the time of the incident. So, yeah, that's one more director I won't be watching. Number 3. Jimmy Savile. This one's a real disappointment. So, Jimmy Savile, famous for the UK show Jim'll Fix It, where he had children write in to have their wishes granted, a show many in the UK, including Ricky Gervais, have cited writing to, died in 2011. A year later, ITV aired a documentary that examined the claims of sexual abuse against Savile over the years, and what was found was unimaginable. The Leeds General Infirmary and Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital found that he had sexually assaulted staff and patients between ages 5 and 75 over the decades. A report by the NSPCC and Metropolitan Police stated that 450 people made complaints against Savile, with the ages at the time of the assaults ranging from 8 to 47, including 28 children under age 10. Yeah, pretty much a textbook example for never meeting your heroes. Number 2. Loretta Young adopts her own child. So, as discussed before, the old Hollywood system tried to force women to terminate their pregnancies so they could be used as assets for as long as possible. However, when this occurred for Loretta Young, such an action was considered unthinkable for her. Loretta Young found herself pregnant with the child of Clark Gable, in a relationship that she has since described as date rape. After finishing shooting the film The Call of the Wild in 1935, Young returned from a hiatus with an adopted daughter. The truth is that the child was her own, but she covered up her parentage. Old Hollywood, we will not miss you. Let's end on a happier note, shall we? Number 1. Kylie Jenner's pregnancy. So, nothing too outlandish here. Prior to giving birth, Kylie Jenner took steps to hide her pregnancy from the media. Of course, plenty of sources leaked information, but for the most part, she was able to maintain some degree of privacy and safely gave birth to her daughter Stormi in 2018. The simple reason for the cover-up was she simply wanted to prepare privately and do this outside the public eye. And given how public a figure she normally is, you can't blame her for wanting a little bit of privacy. And that is it for our top 10 Hollywood scandals that were covered up. There is surely far more scandals out there, and even in the last year, we've found out some not so nice things. So let's hope things get better. Until then, have a good one.